Google's DeepMind has made another step towards conquering table tennis with AI.
So we don't squeeze a bag of Skittles as strongly as we squeeze a physics textbook.
Amazon's Vulcan is a new robot that can feel what it touches. I guess it really helps out when you're moving billions of packages around the country.
This is the sense of touch that until now, experts say hasn't been put into commercial use in robotics.
Mario Kart has been reimagined thanks to AI as a gritty live-action reality series. Oh, Vin Diesel is Mario? I mean, look, he's got the Fast and the Furious franchise, so, like, I guess that makes sense. Charlie Day? Hannah something? Danny DeVito? Alibaba launched ZeroSearch, and when you get your head around the fact that it's like diffusing, imagining, hallucinating 10 links just the way Google did, and sometimes they work better, that's crazy. That's a big change. And at the same time, Apple's trying to make sure that they continue to get their $20 billion from Google for search.
What's nice about an ultrasonic sensor is that transparent objects, such as this picture here, is easily detected.
There's a new 3D ultrasonic sensor that's going to be on robots, and I've just never thought about how cars and robots could actually just hear the room and echolocate like a dolphin, but pretty accurately, and that's incredible. Zuckerberg decided to take on the loneliness epidemic. We're going to get a little ethereal and dive into Madeline Mendensky's article, Maybe Disembodiment is the Whole Point. Yeah, in a nutshell, it's like constant documentation of your life, you know, like selfies, sharing, posting everything on social media actually creates excess visibility, which then paradoxically leads to a loss of self. And of course, what would a Dylan Curious video be if we don't dive in deep to the Lazarus engine? You know, maybe the AI Singularity is already here. We just don't recognize it yet. But first, if you want to support this content, go to patreon.com/Dylan Curious. Join the 91 members, still kind of trying to get that thing to 100. $3, $7, $15 a month just helps me like actually make some money doing this. So hit me up. Okay, so we have seen Google working on some table tennis AI systems before, but now we have something that is actually able to react in the same speed as a human and play at an amateur level. And I think you can imagine why table tennis is like a really tough sport for robots, and AI simulations and the speed of the servos has to be, you know, pretty snappy. But it's the way Google used the new architecture. The team has tackled this problem by creating a smart architecture where high-level controllers select from a library of low-level skills based on in-game performance and opponent behavior. So it's trained on a combination of simulation and real-world play. It wins almost half the time, 45% of the time, against amateur table tennis players. Totally squashes beginners. And the more you play it, the more it learns your style and gets better at playing you specifically.
In this clip, we demonstrate how the robot can play against all different kinds of playing styles.
All right, so this is Amazon's new robot, Vulcan. It doesn't look like a human, so it's not a humanoid, but it can feel what it touches, and it can sort countless different items into bins, knowing what they are, touching them properly, and that's worth a lot of money to Amazon. It's honestly a pretty big step towards a dark warehouse where you can just turn the lights off and let this thing sort countless packages. And then it's got conveyor belts built in so the item can feed forward and backward. It can feel how hard that it's gripping. I mean, it totally makes sense. Like grabbing this bag of Skittles versus a big box with Grimlock here in it would be very different. And that amount of pressure and torque is determined by this AI-powered sensor. So it's up and in production right now. Nobody really ever heard of it till just a few days ago when they did this thing publicly, and I was shocked that it's like already in place and helping Amazon. Okay, let's talk about an AI, kind of a game changer here. Something that'll kind of get you rethinking how some of these tools might work. It is called Alibaba's ZeroSearch. Caught me off guard. Very interesting project. So the technique called ZeroSearch allows large language models to develop advanced search capabilities through a simulation approach rather than interacting with a real search engine during the training process. I don't know why, but I guess I always know that the LLMs sometimes want to lean on tools, right? Like they'll go to a calculator for a big thing, or they'll go out, to your Gmail to send an email. And I always assumed that the search results that you get on Google would always be done with PageRank or whatever the more advanced version of PageRank is that they're using now. And you would get, 10 blue links. But if you can just next token predict the whole 10 links and just bypass the entire copy of the internet that Google's like referencing, why not, I guess? I mean, it seems like you'd really have to solve hallucination, but maybe we're about there. So rather than interacting with real search engines during the training process, this innovation could save companies significant API expenses while offering better control over how AI systems learn to retrieve information. So in a nutshell, it's an AI model that has learned how to search without relying on a search engine to search. That's crazy. I mean, it not only reduces training expense by a bunch, 88%, but it gives developers more flexibility in how the search is generated. When you ask a query, it can now take into context the whole kind of English way that you're typing, or if it's a multimodal model, it can kind of see and hear you and take all of that into consideration like a human. And then give you something that comes out of its head, basically. Like in the same way, if we were just sitting here and you asked me my favorite restaurant or what do you recommend for me to do, I would just tell you something. It just comes and I could be wrong, maybe I forgot the name of the restaurant or whatever that I recommend to you, but it just all happens through the neural network. Yeah, and in tests, this 14 billion parameter model trained with ZeroSearch even outperformed other models trained using real search engine data. So by using a curriculum-based rollout strategy, the system gradually introduces less relevant information during the training, helping the AI to better distinguish between useful and irrelevant data. This self-sufficient approach not only cuts costs, but it also reduces dependencies on external platforms, potentially reshaping the future of AI development. It's just crazy to think about incentivizing search capabilities of LLMs without searching. These paradigm changes, and I kind of know they're coming, and then little moments like this, it kind of clicks. Oh, this is going to be very different soon. Mic check. All right, let's talk Apple for a second. This guy, his name is Eddie Q. He reports directly to Tim Cook. He is in charge of a ton of things at Apple. Senior Vice President of Services is his official title, but services are iTunes, the bookstore, music, Apple Play, Siri, Maps, iCloud, and actually just straight up old Safari. There is an antitrust trial going on. He had to testify in it. And there was a lot of kind of interesting things in terms of how AI is going to change Apple that came out. So for the first time in 22 years, searches on Safari have dipped. And Apple's Eddie Q admits it's because more people are using AI instead of Google. He also acknowledged that Apple's lucrative deal with Google, like a $20 billion a year paycheck that Google gives Apple every year to be the default on Safari, is actually probably something that stifled their innovation and might very well be why they're stumbling a lot in AI right now. And then goes on to explain that maybe it's time for Apple to start looking at AI generative answers and sort of skip the whole idea of search. So does that mean that Safari is not going to just do Google by default? Is that going to be more of an interface that looks maybe something like ChatGPT very soon? That would be crazy. But with what we just saw out of Alibaba and the idea that maybe they could integrate with huge large language models to give answers and then resort to a Google search would completely change that $20 billion landscape. But also, if they can keep getting that $20 billion, maybe that's not worth it. It might be a little bit better for the user, but for $20 billion, I don't know if we're going to see that happen right away. But then again, does Google want to pay $20 billion when search is down? Is the ad revenue there right now? As Tech Republic says, could it be unnecessary to own an iPhone in 10 years? Because as Eddie Q hints at, AI search engines might reshape Safari and challenge Google's long-standing dominance. Apple is, quote, actively looking at overhauling its Safari web browser to integrate AI-driven search engines, including OpenAI, Perplexity AI, and Anthropic as potential alternatives to traditional search options. And guess what happened after this public testimony? Yeah, Alphabet, which is Google's parent company, saw its shares fall by as much as 8.7%, and then Apple shares dropped by 2.7% following his remarks. When the truth leaks out, the investors have to react. What can I say? Here's what's going to happen. It's going to come out of Google's pocket and it's going to go into Sam Altman's pocket. That's what I predict. Now let's talk about metamorphic AI capabilities. These are video capabilities. Watch this video. Okay, it's a plant. It's growing. You know, it looks like something maybe Sora could have done. Something you could have done in LTX Studio, VO2. You know, like not that impressive until you realize Magic Time is a step towards AI that can better simulate the physical, chemical, biological, and social properties of the world around us. And there's a lot more going on under the hood. So what these researchers have done, University of Rochester, Santa Cruz, National University of Singapore, all came together. They created a model that's called Magic Time. And it was trained mostly on time-lapse video, so it enhances the text-to-video generation process by enabling it to simulate complex metamorphic processes like a flower blossoming, bread rising in the oven. A lot of stuff that we've used time-lapse photography and videography to understand. So now Magic Time, this new model, can generate stuff that looks like that, and we can kind of see things evolving over time in very fine detail. And not only that, what it captured with that sort of unique data set is how physics works in a way that actual real-time 30 or 60 frame a second video just doesn't. So look at how many frames a second that is, 187,500. This is a bullet hitting metal. And there it goes. Whoa, that's crazy looking. Let me see it a little closer, and there's the explosion, there's the indentation, there's all the debris. What's amazing is using this as a training set, this is teaching us about physics, right? Like this is treating the model as something that can learn in a way that's much faster than the human eye can perceive. And what it's learning is the way physics works, just we normally don't capture it with our video equipment. But once it's got it, Magic Time, because it's a text-to-video generation model, can try to do a bunch of stuff that we've never seen before and haven't captured. So this advancement allows for more realistic simulations of physical, chemical, biological, and social processes. That's particularly useful for scientists. So for example, a biologist might use such a simulation tool to explore a hypothesis of how something might evolve over time before conducting a physical experiment, potentially speeding up the research process and reducing the need for trials. So another interesting research development, there is a new deep learning algorithm that is called face age, and it uses a photograph of a person's face to predict their biological age and survival outcomes for patients with cancer. I know it sounds crazy, but we know how AI can learn things that are just the type of intelligence that our brains don't do naturally, so they're hard for us to get our heads around. But this system found that patients with cancer, on average, had a higher face age than those without, and it appeared about 5 years older than their chronological age. And they also found that face age outperformed clinicians in predicting short-term life expectancies in the case of patients receiving palliative radiotherapy. So basically, the system's trained on a bunch of images of healthy individuals, 59,000 in this case. And then the algorithm was also tested on 6,000 cancer patients and found that those who appeared older than their actual age tended to have poor survival outcomes. So that's how it's able to make this prediction. But overall, I find it really interesting because this study suggests that how old somebody looks can provide meaningful insights into their health, and it could help doctors make more informed treatment decisions. But who would have thought a simple selfie could reveal so much about our health? Okay, I want to talk about 3D ultrasonic sensors for autonomous mobile robots for a minute. This got me thinking, but why aren't cars hearing super well too? Like superhuman through AI. That seems very useful. You can hear a motorcycle coming around you. You can hear a car, like when you're in a parking lot. Sometimes hearing is one of the ways to actually locate where someone is outside of your peripheral vision. So when this Norwegian sensor company came up with sonic audio, 360-degree obstacle detection through sonic audio, I was like, that makes a ton of sense. So these ultrasonic sensors are called ADARs, ADAR, and they're designed for autonomous mobile robots, debuting in Automate 2025 in Detroit. They help robots better detect people, obstacles, and they use sound waves instead of more traditional laser-based systems. Seems really smart to incorporate a technology like this for safety or for understanding. Let's move over to some of Zuckerberg's comments. He will create most of your friends using artificial intelligence. And yeah, like Futurism said, that's pretty grim, Mark. I mean, look, I don't want people to be lonely. And if AI companionship can actually play a role in the future, I'm kind of for it. But you can imagine becoming reliant on it and that not being a good thing. He asserted that more people should be connecting with chatbots on a social level because they don't have enough real-life friends. When asked if the AI chatbot can fight the loneliness epidemic, the billionaire painted a dystopian vision of a future in which we spend more time talking to AIs than flesh and blood humans. There's the stat that I always think is crazy, but the average American, I think, has fewer than 3 friends, Zuckerberg told Patel. And the average person has demanded for meaningfully more, and I think like 15 friends or something, right? There's so many other things it could solve, you know? Material science, CRISPR stuff. Let's check out something Madeline Mendensky has written. Maybe disembodiment is the whole point. Thoughts on the quote, I forgot this whole point trend, hope core, and more. The article's exploring what it's like to have a digital life and a real life. Like, you know me as Dylan Curious, but I'm also a real person that other people know in real life. If I get very poor views because I share with you the beans that I make every morning for breakfast, nobody cares what I'm eating, like the algorithm's not going to give me views. So that part has been naturally removed from our like friendship, right? Our connection. Okay, so to build on that, let me tell you about a trend. Maybe you know about this, maybe you don't, but it's called the I forgot this was the whole point. It is a popular format on TikTok where creators use short, emotionally evocative videos that layer clips of peaceful, brilliant, beautiful, and joyful moments. Think of something like a sunset and kids playing in a field and nature scenes, and they're often accompanied by like soft music playing with the phrase, I forgot this was the whole point, right? It taps into a collective sense of nostalgia, and that whole movement is called hope core. Hope core reflects a deep tension between embodiment, being present in the physical world, and this disembodiment, this feeling of being detached due to digital habits online. And she highlights just how weird it is that you can go travel to somewhere, in her case it was Brussels, to highlight and capture the humanity of it all, the human effort, the human experience in a digital format to share it with people who are then going to experience it kind of incorrectly, not in a real way. And in that case, you didn't really connect with the environment. You connected with the person who digitally represented their experience of actually connecting with the environment. Anyhow, the most thought-provoking part of what Madeline wrote is just the idea that disembodiment might not really be like a loss, like maybe lossless or like how accurate it is isn't really the point, but it's a redistribution of your sense of self that we need to think about. When you redistribute your sense of self to something that happened, it's in line with your history because you know it's all kind of linear. It's what you did. When you align it with movies or fiction or most importantly, like digital versions of things you experienced, it's different. So maybe you're better off next time instead of scrolling Instagram or going through this, I forgot this was a whole point on TikTok, looking at least at photographs of yourself and memories that you took on your own phone because they're more aligned. All right, are you ready to talk about the Lazarus engine? The AI Singularity is already here, not just in the way you think. Keep your programming skills sharp. You're going to need them. This was written Joseph Crespo, PhD, on Medium. Sorry, sci-fi fans, but that apocalypse script probably not happening because it's not going to look anything like the tech-doomed movies we've been fed for years. No Terminators, no creepy robot overlords, no Skynet mood lighting. The real Singularity, much quieter, way stranger, way deeper. And it's already sneaking in. Built from the tech we already have, plus a few spicy upgrades, next-gen math, weird physics tricks, and AI that doesn't just predict, it operates. All right, so this article, it talks about how you could imagine this theoretical AI system that he calls the Lazarus engine could in the future monitor everything, our organs like the liver in real time, diagnose problems before symptoms appear, and even fix issues without surgery, because it could understand on such a deep level all the things that can go wrong using concepts like topology, geometry, supersymmetric math, knot theory, all sorts of stuff that is so insanely intelligent and outside of what a human can do that it just blows our minds, and it turns biology into a hardware problem, and it can maybe solve things at the deepest level. There's this concept called nail zoom unlock. Nail, you notice when something's acting weird, so the system might notice something in your liver that's like beyond you, but some cells aren't acting right or whatever. Zoom in and figure out exactly where it's breaking, pinpoint the fault line, understanding, is it the DNA of the cell that's gone wrong? Is it whatever, it's a bunch of stuff I couldn't even imagine. And then unlock, which is a deep structural level, and then start to fix it. Don't let something turn into a forest fire. Solve all forest fires when they're just tiny little embers. And if it can just do that to everything in our reality and to us at all times, you just kind of never end up having problems. The Lazarus engine just works. And if things that seem like they can't be solved with math, like biological failures, like a liver damage issue, and it can be solved by metaphorically, or no, like actually literally using math and figuring out whether it's a protein or it's a blood vessel or it's a geometric error, and just solving it. That's not just sci-fi. That's a new radical way that we could be living in the future. Support the channel. Go to patreon.com/DylanCurious. And thanks for everybody watching the last couple of videos. My deep dive with Wes Ross did really good, over 10,000 views, and 8,000 for the deep fakes with a heartbeat. That was, that's always really nice to have that kind of support. So feel free, leave some comments. I always like looking through these and reading them. Share the video if you can, do all that stuff, and I'll see you guys in the next video.
Goodbye, friends. Goodbye. Every time videos start, people get hyped up, ready for big metal dino energy. Relax and thank your mighty